Thank you for tuning in to this special episode of Movie Geeks United. It's difficult to imagine a filmmaker as relevant, provocative, or as indelible as Spike Lee. His films are equal parts entertaining and instructive, and each of them overflows with feverish passion and an undying love of the cinematic language. Editor Barry Alexander Brown has been by Lee's side from the beginning. From She's Gotta Have It to his latest, BlacKkKlansman, Brown and Lee have never been afraid to experiment, and together they've expanded the boundaries of successful storytelling. Brown is himself an Oscar-nominated director for his 1979 documentary, The War at Home. We spoke to Mr. Brown about his long-standing collaboration with Mr. Lee and a few of the films that have distinguished their union
I
along the way.
That initially you had no intention of getting into the realm of editing. You're an Academy Award. You're an Oscar-nominated documentary filmmaker, and editing kind of came upon you, as a surprise. But what about editing do you feel suited you?
Well, the thing about it is I think my friends recognized something before I recognized it, is that they liked what I did as an editor on my own films. And Spike had asked me, he was having trouble with the scene, and She's Gotta Have It. And so he asked me, will you try your hand at this? I said, sure, I'm happy to, right? And it was this sex scene between the really good-looking guy, Greer, and Noah in the bed. They were almost like silhouettes on these white sheets. And he loved what he did. And so he began to think of me as an editor, and at the same time, my friend Mira Nair began to think of me that way as well. From a short film I had done, he did another really great walk in New York City across to this cathedral called St. John the Divine, and again, it's one of these things that I cut it because I could not afford to hire an editor. So it was going to be me, and people love the edit of that film. And it turned out to be a really charming 30-minute long film about Philippe Petit. And so then, Mira wanted me to do her first feature. And, I don't know. I think I was, if anything, at the very beginning, I think I was more, sure, why not? I mean, if they're crazy enough to hire me, I'll do it. But it wasn't a thing of this is going to be my career.
Eventually, you had to kind of say to yourself, well, I guess I'm an editor, because everyone else seems to think that I am.
That was Malcolm X. That was Malcolm X.
Wow.
That I finally said, maybe I'm an editor. But editing always came very easy to me, and it was always enjoyable because it was easy. Somebody had said to me not long ago, how do you deal with the tediousness of editing? I said, listen, if you think it's tedious, you cannot be an editor. You can't be. And I found from the very beginning I could fall into it. I could fall into this place where I edit, and I'm simply there. And it's almost like a sense of floating.
Yeah, that's when the film is kind of working through you, I think.
Yeah. And it's speaking to you. And I can go there. And I can have, when we were working in film, nobody could talk to me in the course of it because I would have all over the editing room, the 35 millimeter rolls laid out in places where I'm just going to cut from, and so all of this was in my head. If you talk to me, it could all fall apart like a house of cards. So I had a great assistant editor, Leander Sales, and he would just stop anybody from coming into the room or saying anything. Don't say good morning, nothing, right? Because it was dreadful. I could lose it. And those days, I'd work from like 9 to 6. But at 6 o'clock, I was exhausted. And now, you're working on an Avid, and I love Avid Media Composer. Man, at 6 o'clock, I'm good. It's so much easier. It is so much easier.
I bet.
Oh my Lord, it's crazy how much easier. And still, I'm not a guy who does work late. I know people that work late, and every once in a while you have to, but mostly, I figure I have, lose having a life. You also have to have a life. It can't just be about the work. You also have to have a life. But I get a lot done in the hours I work. And one thing that was great about being a film editor is I think it taught me about making decisions. Because, it was hard to go back and recut stuff, so it's a matter of let's make some good decisions right away. And so digitally, the system is so incredibly well set up, and there's people that talk about, wow, what's great about digital editing is that you can just cut and see how this works and see how this works and see how this works. We thought, well, that's a crazy way to think about editing. It's like you're not making choices. You're just hoping that you stumble across an edit. If you have an infinite amount of monkeys and an infinite amount of typewriters and an infinite amount of time, you can write the great works of literature. It's that kind of idea.
It's amazing. You've had this collaboration with Spike that has gone on for well over 3 decades. What clicks between the two of you? I mean, where is that creative symbiosis? What works about that relationship, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the thing is, it's what drew us together. It's just, I think our personalities click. But I also think our sense of cinema from the very beginning clicked, and that's why we were drawn to each other and became friends. Is that there was something that was very similar in the way we thought about films and what we thought worked and what we thought that didn't work, and what interests, and our sense of humor also, I think, is similar. I can make them laugh. There was I remember this very intense meeting on Malcolm X at Warner Brothers, and Spike was angry at them, and it was the first time we showed the film to Warner Brothers, and he wouldn't look at them. We were sitting side by side in this big table with all these executives, and he wouldn't look at them. He would just look down. And I thought, wow, one of us had better make eye contact, right? And so I was looking up, and then because he was just looking down, with a baseball cap on, and they would say something, and he would turn to me and would ask me something about how can that work, or da da da. And sometimes I would say something back to him, and he would laugh because I would do something on purpose. Because something struck me as funny, and I'd say it to him, and he would laugh. And I would look up, and these executives, this whole room of white executives were looking at me like, oh, my God, he can make Spike Lee laugh. Who is this guy? Yeah. And so there is just this easy, natural way between us, but also we came along together, and we grew along together in terms of movies, because I was there before the beginning of his career, his big career, and so So it's a matter of growing together too, and trying to figure out what is this thing that we're doing, and how do we make movies, and how does it work, and how do these films move? You know,
there are all kinds of different movies, but oftentimes I'll describe two different kinds. There are ones that are plot driven, where you have a plot in place and you place your characters in there to kind of fulfill the plot. And there are others, the ones that I prefer, the ones that you and Spike make together, where it feels like characters are plot. Where, especially in something like Jungle Fever or Summer of Sam, you allow these characters room to breathe and communicate with one another just on all kinds of realms of conversation that aren't intrinsic to, okay, we got to move the plot to this place.
Moving the plot forward, yeah.
They make the film feel very lived in and very authentic, which I love. Right. As an editor, how do you kind of temper how long you hold on those conversations and still maintain that pace?
You never can tell. You just have to do it and feel it. And sometimes, you're doing it and feeling it and thinking later, oh wow, we're here too long. We gotta get out of this scene. But it's only by gut, really. Sometimes you do, previews, and an audience will help you with those moments where you think, yeah. This is we're here too long, and sometimes you find out you're there too short. Sometimes you discover, wait a second, you know what? We cut all that stuff out, and Spike and I can sometimes say later, you know what? I miss it, and we'll go back and put in lines of dialogue. But it's only by gut and instinct and feel.
Well, and it speaks to the discipline of your cutting too, because the editors that I've spoken to over the years, they've all highlighted that it's not just where you cut. Equally important many times is where you don't cut, when you just know when to sit back and let the scene breathe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, like, why do I need to cut here? Why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? And sometimes it's Spike who comes in and says, I don't think we need to. We don't need to cut around to this. Why don't we just stay here? Right. Yeah. There are a lot of times where you think I cannot get in the way of this scene, because I want to cut, and it's not always easy to understand when that happens. You just have to hope that you're choosing these right moments, and that you're. But oftentimes I find myself. Sometimes I might make that kind of those choices about when I'm not going to cut, all the way to at the point where I'm working dailies with Spike, and I just have to remember that was fascinating. That whole shot, that whole moment with this person or these two people, that was fascinating. I was fascinated the first time I saw it. Don't forget that. Don't forget that first emotion that you had, that first reaction.
Well, and that kind of gut instinct, I would think, would have been particularly valuable for something like BlacKkKlansman, because you had a really short post period on this film, didn't you?
Really short. Yeah, crazy short. Yeah, and we don't have any deleted scenes in this movie. No deleted scenes.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, crazy, huh? And but I don't know. Somehow I was feeling it all the way through. There's an editor's cut where Spike, I've showed stuff to Spike while we're shooting, but then after he lets me go off and finish the cut, because he doesn't want to see it until it's all put together, 2 or 3 weeks later. And so I don't know. I was feeling something all the way through that moment where I was just cutting. And I had to cut all the way through the Christmas break, because there was this sense that Spike had, right? I think even when he was shooting, that he was going to try and push for Cannes, and so he wanted to see something in early January. So I showed it to him, and man, he was so charged the very first time he saw it, and and I felt pretty solid. I felt like it was pretty solid. I mean, I think that the first cut was around 2 minutes and 10 seconds, 2 hours and 10 minutes, and of course we lost stuff, but we added stuff, especially the Charleston, the Charlottesville stuff at the end of the movie, but still right around the same length,
Yeah, that's unusual.
Very, very.
Yeah.
Very,
and the film has a very retro feeling to it. At the same time, it's definitely by the end, this movie couldn't be more current, couldn't be more pressing.
Yeah.
But in terms of the stylistic retro aspect of it, I'm especially interested in the use of split screen, because I remember years ago speaking to Paul Hirsch, who did a lot of De Palma's stuff, and Hirsch said to me, "I don't like split screen," which surprised me, because I thought when used correctly, it can be such an effective and efficient means of storytelling. Did that feel? Were you certain of that choice from the beginning on this film?
Well, I like the idea of it. I did like the idea of it. Was I certain? I wasn't certain. I wasn't certain until I showed my first attempt at something. Because Spike and I hadn't talked about it. I simply tried something, and I wanted to show Spike. And sometimes I like to show Spike without telling him much about it, so that he's not going to think about it before he sees it. He's just going to see it and react. And he saw it and he reacted and he said, yeah, this is we're going to do this. And he was excited. He was happy about it. And then it's a matter of, from that point on, how do we use it? How is it going to work? And one of the best ways it works at the very end, when Ron is cursing out David Duke from this list of curses that he's been writing down, and it's great to see Ron on the left side of the screen, and it's great to see David Duke reacting, which is almost not reacting, on the other side of the screen. And see that David Duke is sinking into him who he's been talking to and what is what. And it's just wonderful to be able to see those two things together.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's indicative of what you guys do together so often in his films. I love the bold operatic strokes throughout each of these films. And sometimes they're very playful, but they're always kind of a celebration of cinema, like what is unique to cinema, what cinema can do.
Yeah, that's good. I like to hear you say that, because it is absolutely it is, because we both love cinema. We love it, and and we can love simply seeing what somebody else does and saying, "Wow, isn't that great? Wow, isn't that great?"
Yeah.
And Spike is first and foremost a filmmaker. He's got politics and he has things to say, but even before that, he's a filmmaker.
Absolutely. When are you guys going to do a musical?
Well, we did one. We did School Days. We both love musicals. We both love musicals, and definitely we're both into doing a musical. That's for sure. I don't think I think there's still a possibility to do it. I'd love to do a Western, quite frankly, too.
Yeah.
I did one Western, which was it was a Western. It was this half-hour film for Rockstar Video. They did for the first Red Dead Redemption. They wanted a film, and so I went on to that because I was, my agent called me and said, Rockstar, wants to do this, and I said yes, because I got to do a Western, in this funky way, and I was really happy with it, But
did I read this correctly? Or are you working on a documentary of your own right now?
No, I'm working on a feature.
Okay.
From the script I wrote, set in Alabama, in Montgomery, Alabama, in 1961. And I've been in Alabama in pre-production, and we're looking at going into production in mid-February. February and March.
Wow. Well, I will definitely want to see that. So
I actually have a meeting with an actor in 10 minutes right downstairs on the film. It's called Son of the South. Yeah. Yep. And I'll edit that one too. I'll be the writer, director, editor.
So I don't want to keep you because I know you have this important meeting with your actor. You need to wrap up. But I just want to tell you how much what you've done in film has meant to me. It has really enriched my life, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much.